2026 is the make or break year for Marvel Studios. I think after next year, the franchise is either going to be back on top or doomed to spiral downward like so much Loki not taking Thor's hand. Personally, I think this is the year for the big Marvel comeback, but we do have a lot to talk about. Welcome back to ScreenCrush, I am Ryan Airy, and let's talk about whether or not Marvel Studios is going to thrive or die next year. Later, I'm going to be joined by Colton and Tommy, but first let me give you guys the lay of the land here. So the industry likes to say that Marvel Studios is a studio that likes to take risks, but that's an understatement. The studio is actually completely built on risk. The company was less than a decade out from bankruptcy when they decided to suddenly produce their own big budget movies, so they borrowed $500 million to make that happen. They decided to make box office headliners out of Iron Man and Captain America. They gave the Guardians of the Galaxy a movie. And mostly, the idea of an interconnected movie universe just should not work. It's a lot to ask fans to watch several different franchises to understand one movie, but they did it. The risk paid off. But more importantly, think about the insane run of quality in these films. Like Winter Soldier and Guardians came out just a few months apart in the same year. And then, in a row, we had Civil War, Guardians 2, Homecoming, Ragnarok, Black Panther, and Infinity War. That's the 27 Yankees of superhero films. And then after Endgame, Marvel continued to think big and take bigger chances. They tied their universe even closer to TV shows. Again, that's a lot to ask from your audience. So this meant that they released more hours of programming in Phase 4 than they did in the entire Infinity Saga. Like if Marvel Studios were just making comics, that wouldn't be a problem. You can just hire more artists and writers. But film production is a huge logistical beast. It takes thousands of people working together over years, and frankly, Marvel's timeline pressure eventually just broke the Hollywood system. CG artists needed more time on She-Hulk and Quantumania. Shows were rushed out of development too fast, like Secret Invasion, which basically was so awful they shot it twice, but it still sucks. And with the multiverse saga, we all felt it. Marvel was laying down the tracks in front of the train. Movies like The Thunderbolts and Brave New World and First Steps were cut to ribbons. Thor: Love and Thunder didn't even have a script, they improvised half of it. Then they started to drop entire seasons of TV shows in 1 or 2 weeks, kind of like they were dropping weight off a speeding train. And eventually, keeping up with everything just seemed like too much of a burden for a lot of fans, and so a lot of people decided that Marvel was just too much. And once fans decide to jump off a franchise, it is really hard to get them back, because frankly, it's easier not to follow Marvel. After all, there is just already so much other stuff for us to watch and do right now, and everyone is just competing for your attention and your money. And I don't blame fans for watching Secret Invasion and thinking, well, Marvel's lost its mojo, what else is on? But behind the scenes, Marvel was learning from their mistakes and reconfiguring their entire structure, and this is where I really admire this studio. They could have just retreated into safety and what works for them. They could have just brought back the original Avengers to play their original roles and given them a ton of money and given us more of the same, and they would have done really well. But instead, they're giving us the gift of 2026, which looks like it's going to be the weirdest, most risk-taking year that Marvel Studios has ever had. But when you look back at the history of great storytelling, the risk takers are always the stories that stand out and inspire others. Like George Lucas combined old Flash Gordon serials and revisionist westerns to make Star Wars. And he also used hard sci-fi like Dune and Foundation. And Foundation is my favorite sci-fi novel series of all time. Now, some of you may already be familiar with the show on Apple TV. Like, I'm a huge fan of the show, so I'm very excited about this new game, Foundation Galactic Frontier, that lets you explore the Foundation universe. So Foundation Galactic Frontier is the sponsor of today's video, and I am so excited that there is finally a game set in this universe. Not only does it loyally adapt one of the greatest sci-fi stories of all time, but it also features new stories about Harry Seldon, the Mule, and the Emperor. Here in this footage, you can see Easter eggs like Asimov's image in this bottle, references to a blue-eyed stranger meeting the Mule. This is the original cover of the first Foundation novel, and this is a nod to Asimov's 3 Laws, and here we have a post-it note about a Seldon crisis. This is the kind of game that's great for loyal fans, or if you're just learning about this universe for the first time. It's an RPG-style game that lets you roam through the Foundation universe and experience the era of traitors while defeating waves of enemies along the way. This game allows you to create a fleet of your own spaceships, recruit members of your crew, team up with allies, and create a guild with other players. So you start off as a space trader, and then you explore planets with ground battles and command a fleet of spacecraft to explore other worlds. You can even build and customize your spaceship's cabin and customize your fleet to match your playing style.
Wow, this game really has something for everyone.
Yes, and what I love most about the game is that there are dozens of galaxies to explore and endless ways to play. Everything from answering distress calls from other players to deploying your fleet in battle. You can play on mobile or PC. Now on mobile, you can dive into the universe anytime or anywhere, but on PC, the game offers greater immersion. But both versions are synchronized, so you can seamlessly switch between between devices with the same progress. Foundation Galactic Frontier offers individual story modes and player versus player gameplay, so you and all your friends can conquer the galaxy together.
And that is the power of friendship.
Guys, this game is so much fun, and I love being able to explore space freely on my own from the comfort of my phone. I highly encourage you guys to check it out for yourselves. Use my link below and download now to get free heroes and battleships, and use my exclusive code ScreenCrush, all lowercase, to get more in-game rewards, and then I'll see you in-game. Now, back to what I was saying. So, let me talk about what's releasing next year, and then I'm going to bring on Tommy and Colton so they can tell me what they think is wrong and how Marvel is maybe fixing it, or whether or not they're doomed to fail. First, there are 6 TV shows coming out next year.
Ah, jeez.
No, hear me out. In the past, Marvel TV shows were billed as essential entertainment. Like, you had to watch them to understand the movies. But now we know you don't really got to watch She-Hulk to understand Deadpool and Wolverine. But other shows like Loki and WandaVision were important to the movies. Of the shows coming out next year, most of them are totally independent from the films. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2 is technically a multiversal story that is unaffiliated with the rest of the slate. And by the way, X-Men 97 took another huge risk. It's a sequel to a 1990s animated series that barely limped into its last season with just 10 episodes, and half of those were really poorly animated to save money. But I would argue that Remember It is the best episode of any Marvel TV show, period. So we're getting a second season of that show. And then there's also the Punisher special presentation, which, by the way, I really think they should make into a film and release on the big screen and make more money, but whatever. And that promises to be a gory, violent shoot-'em-up, which frankly is a love letter to fans. And this shows how Marvel's learning from their mistakes. I mean, remember, at first, they didn't want to acknowledge the Netflix shows because they didn't come from Marvel Studios.
Wait, they didn't?
No, I mean, long story short, Marvel TV used to be a separate division from the movies. And then TV came under Kevin Feige's purview. And at first, and by the way, this is crucial, Marvel made a big mistake with their shows. They treated the shows like movies. This is why we have so many seasons of TV shows that feel like one movie cut up into small sections. But then they learned from their mistake, and they reorganized the TV division under Brad Winderbaum to a more traditional TV structure. Now, creators pitch pilot scripts, they go through development, etc., just like they've been making TV shows for nearly a century. Before, it was just Marvel Studios deciding which shows they want to make and then hiring people to make those shows. So this means that now we're going to see a higher quality of show and, most importantly, a more traditional show structure. So no more seasons that feel like movies cut into 6 parts. Now, the show I am most excited for next year is VisionQuest from Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas. I saw the trailer at Comic-Con and it looks weird as absolute hell, guys. It brings back Ultron, introduces Speed, Wanda and Vision's other son, and it completes this whole WandaVision trilogy. And on top of that, there's Wonder Man, which looks like it's completely different from any other superhero TV show we've ever seen. That is from Destin Daniel Cretton, who also gave us Shang-Chi and Spider-Man Brand New Day. And if Marvel is giving this guy a Spider-Man movie, they must like what they see from Wonder Man. And Daredevil Born Again is another example of Marvel learning from their mistakes. During the strikes of 2023, they realized that the show wasn't really working, so they brought on Dario Scardapane as a new showrunner. So this season is actually his first true season completely in charge. If you thought season 1 felt a little bit uneven, it's because it was basically 2 shows they Frankenstein together. And there's also a chance that the new season of Born Again will tie in directly to Spider-Man Brand New Day, but that's not yet confirmed. And on the box office side, Marvel only has 2 announced projects, and they're both proven billion-dollar draws. Spider-Man Brand New Day teams up Spidey with the Punisher and the Hulk, and Avengers Doomsday is by far the biggest, craziest risk that the studio has ever taken.
And that's actually saying something.
But I'm joined by 2 of my favorite people. We have Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped at our television and doesn't know it, so please don't tell him, and Tommy Bechtold, the guy who's always on break. Guys, I don't know. I'll be honest. Before this, this past weekend at Comic-Con, well, not past weekend, but you know what I mean. Marvel, I was like, cool, we're going to cover Marvel stuff. Being in that room and feeling the electricity from fans around Wonder Man and stuff like that and X-Men 97, I'm genuinely excited for what's to come, but I can't help but reflect on how we got here. Tommy, I talked about this a little bit ago. I was wondering if you have anything to offer before we get into this upcoming year and why it's important. How do you think Marvel got to this point where fans were skeptical of their quality?
Well, I think it's 2 things. One, it is way more sexy to be a contrarian, but now everyone is a contrarian. So there's kind of a group thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Hashtag Tommy's wrong, and let us know in the comments why you think Tommy's wrong.
If you do, I will find you with my new group of people.
I will find him.
Tommy troops will be coming to your door. No, I think that it's just more popular now to hate monolithic things like the MCU or Taylor Swift or the NFL or whatever. And it's you're always going to get more engagement. So it seems like there's this. I mean, that's one side of it. The other side is the box office numbers and the ratings do reflect that there's a huge amount of fatigue. And the studio's attitude reflects the fatigue when they dump these shows, as you mentioned earlier, out in 2 weeks. It's like, how are we supposed to feel the gravity of these projects when you're like, just get it all out of the way in a fortnight? I think that Marvel has instructed us to care less.
In a fortnight?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Shakespearean.
Yeah. No. I got it. Yeah, Shakespearean.
I've read a book. I've read Hop on Pop.
Speeches for Abraham Lincoln now. I totally get it.
Ryan thought you meant the video game.
Look.
There's a
Iron
video
Man
game
2
about Abraham Lincoln writing speeches? That's incredible.
Yeah, you haven't played it?
We all know Iron Man 2 came out 67 scores ago, okay? It's a long time ago.
By the way, Tommy, who writes out all of his years in Roman numerals. Let's
That's
also
right.
remember that. Yeah, but I hear you about the negativity and stuff and why, it's the backlash to the thing that's just begun. But it's all like there's also just, there's a reason they dumped Ironheart, which I'll never forgive them for, in 2 weeks. There's a reason that the box office didn't perform well for Thunderbolts, one of their best movies in years. Colton, where do you think they went wrong with fans and why they so desperately need 2026?
Well, I think fans, especially like you talked about being at Comic-Con, I think that we've always kind of like still been here, like getting pumped for any trailer that they drop, because that's just, it's in our DNA. We get excited for these things, even if, we perhaps notice that the quality has dropped here and there. But I think that excitement, and I was at Comic-Con as well, you always feel it, like even at this point in time when things aren't looking great for the MCU. I think where they went wrong was they really needed to pump the brakes and like take a break after Endgame, but they didn't do that. They went right into Spider-Man, Far From Home, and then, they started pumping out like Black Widow and all these other movies. I think they would have benefited from taking maybe like a year break and then starting like they started with Phase 1, building up slow and then doing that Avengers movie, a smaller thing, have She-Hulk there. I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying She-Hulk, but bring in all these new characters and have that small level Avengers film. They didn't do that. They just threw a bunch of shit at the wall and they rushed to having their next big culmination event, which I do think fans are going to be excited for, but I mean, they're excited for it because it feels like a sequel to Endgame more than it feels like a sequel to all this other stuff. And I think that's what's going to pull people back in.
Yeah, we're going to get to Doomsday in a little bit. I'm pretty dubious about it still, even though I'm excited for this next year. It's weird, the thing I'm least excited about is the Avengers movie. But you got to remember, though, you're talking about how they dumped a lot of stuff really fast. I don't want to get demonetized. So there was this thing called the Panorama Ding Dong that happened, right? In 2020, and that pushed back a lot of stuff that they were doing. The reason we had 3 movies and 5 shows in 2021 was because production was so halted and they had a backlog, I guess. But I don't know, man. I'm still kind of feeling like they were putting the cart before the horse so much. They were being forced to put things out for streaming, and they did a bad job of tying the two together, I think. Well,
and they lost we've always been here. Like, we may be critical of what they're putting out here and there, but we're still here. I think the diehard fans were still here. What made the MCU so big was not us. It was my mom and your guys' moms and our, brothers and sisters and our friends who, work real jobs for a living. And it's them that the MCU used to have interested in, that, people would, to quote Tim Robbins, I don't know if you guys have seen that movie Friendship, but there's a new Marvel out and I hear it's really good. We got to see it. That was the general audience. And they've lost that because now it just feels like homework and, oh, well, I didn't see the last 2. I didn't watch that show. I don't pay for Disney Plus. That's who they've lost and who they need to get back. I think we're always here. We're shackled to it. We're not going anywhere. It's that general audience they need to pull back in.
Yeah, and it feels like homework when it's not as good. I mean, let's face it. Nobody ever was like, man, did you watch Better Call Saul? Oh, I can't. I haven't seen Breaking Bad. It feels like homework. If something's great and fun to watch, it doesn't feel like homework. I do think there was a point where they had this idea, right, where everything that came out, like, well, I got to watch this so I understand the next Avengers movie. I want to understand this next thing. And as soon as something comes out like Secret Invasion, you could pick on She-Hulk and Moon Knight. I don't think they're as bad as everybody says. As soon as that comes out, you're like, so wait, where does this connect? And I keep going back to, why the hell was there not an Avengers movie already to team these guys up. And, Thunderbolts probably should have come out a couple phases earlier. But again, Tommy, I think you're right. I think that people are like on the bandwagon of hating this, hating that, and things always swing back around one way or the other. But this next year, I'm wondering if this is going to be a year when they can win back, well, as my barber once said, grown men who care about cartoon characters, which is essentially what they did, or if it's just going to be more of the same. Tommy, do you think this upcoming slate's good for us or good for, like, moms?
The civilians?
The civilians.
No, I think that, listen, I think that when that first true minute 30, 2-minute trailer comes out for Doomsday, a lot of the hype is going to return to the civilian class, and I'm going to start hearing from my friends. They're like, do I need to see this movie? This movie looks great. Robert Downey Jr. is back. And that is why that casting is important to bring back the casuals, is because, we can malign it all we want. We can roll our eyes. We can theorize. But, like, he is going to put butts in seats. Robert Downey Jr. alone is going to get people to come see this movie. And, hopefully, whatever they decide to do with that character is dense and rich enough to, kind of propel the MCU back on track without needing heavy involvement from Robert Downey Jr. But I think that I'm optimistic about Doomsday. I think that I think that bringing the X-Men in is going to be really exciting and fun, and I would err on the side of it being a massive smash and getting closer to that 1 billion mark again than being like it's going to do 450 million.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right. 100%. Before we get into movies and Doomsday and Robert Downey Jr. too far, thank you for that tease. If you follow the incredibly detailed outline, you'll see that we're talking about that towards the end, so we can micro hook it throughout this. That's okay. That's okay. But we're going to leave it in, even though there was an incredibly 4-point detailed outline that was.
And I read it twice is the worst part.
I do want to talk about Doomsday because again, you're talking about butts and seats, whereas I'm over here like, well, but actually, Tony Stark is not Dr. Doom, so it is two completely different sets of fans. I want to know what you guys are excited about for the TV slate. I'm more of it, I'll be honest, I love TV, right? If I could spend the rest of my life getting caught up on streaming shows, I would be happy. So I'm really excited for this season, this slate of TV coming up. But do you guys, Colton, we'll start with you. What are you excited about? And maybe what do you think is something they shouldn't bother with? I don't know. Where are you at on this TV slate?
Well, I'd like to pivot back to Avengers Doomsday.
Great. If you just would stick to the outline. You see, right here is where we're talking about the movies. We're going to talk about Brand New Day and then Doomsday. And this is the TV section. That we get people to stick around for while they're waiting for the thing that we've micro-hooked throughout the video. People who watch ScreenCrush videos know all of this. We also know that, we're listening to your voice.
That's right. We listen to your voice.
That's Doug, a proxy for your voice, so you understand what I'm talking about. Colton, go ahead. Talk about TV shows now.
Yeah. Well, I think that Daredevil Born Again season 2 I'm very excited for because, I won't get on my soapbox here, but I was somewhat disappointed with the first season of Born Again. I didn't think it quite lived up to the Netflix series, but you could really see at the beginning and the end of that season, which was reworked by the new showrunners and they were embracing the old Netflix style. You could see the potential there. And now season 2 is being done with that same team. And I think it'll have a more consistent feel that doesn't, feel like they reworked the entire thing, once they were in the middle of production. So I'm really excited for Born Again.
And Jessica Jones.
Yeah, and I may have seen the leaked trailer from Comic-Con posted on Twitter or whatever. It looks really good. So yeah, and Jessica Jones, yes. More
Kristen Ritter leaked the trailer on her Instagram. She's like, hey, look, I'm at Comic-Con, and she leaked
God
scenes
bless
from
her.
It. She was in. She's amazing. I mean, dude, she took that stage like she had never left it, man. She slipped right back into that persona and the role. I still think that they're going to bring Luke Cage on though, because I really thought he was going to show up at that panel because he was also in the building. He also had a gap in his schedule. And I think they were leaving that open, but they opted to not show him in the trailer so they could reveal him early next year. Tommy, what about you on the TV side? I want to talk about Wonder Man in a second, but what are you stoked about?
Oh, I am very excited for X-Men 97 season 2. I am I loved the continuation of that show. I think for men of my age, that show was a pretty like pivotal cartoon for us, and like a lot of us, I think
Pivotal for
we may
Marvel.
have discussed it. It was like an inroad to Marvel for me, honestly. Like I wasn't an avid comic book reader as a little kid, and I started watching the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon and the X-Men cartoon, and I was all in Batman the Animated Series. Not that we're talking about that, but so I'm very excited about that. I'm excited for Wonder Man. I know we're going to talk about that, and I'll get into why. But like, to me, getting excitement around this character is like similar to the way Marvel figured out a way to get us excited about Iron Man, which was not a character that I particularly cared about in 2008.
And not many people did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, all right, well, I know Iron Man because I have, some knowledge of the comics, but like, I'm a Spider-Man guy, I'm an X-Man guy. And then like, you want me to get all in on Iron Man. And by like the end of that movie, I was like, I will watch 100 of these. So I know it's a TV show, but I'm hoping that similarly, you take this character that like the average media consumer that might like superhero stuff doesn't have a ton of familiarity with, and you make them fall in love with this character. And I similarly have that excitement.
Well, the interesting thing about Wonder Man is, I remember like back in 2012 or 13 when I saw they released concept art for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, this movie will be amazing because they're doing things here we haven't seen before. James Gunn's amazing. Wonder Man is one of these things where I'm looking at it and I'm going, I don't know what the hell this is from the trailer, and that's great. As a guy who consumes this stuff professionally, not knowing what's going to happen is such a great feeling. If I had to guess, I would say that creepy director's idea is to actually turn the lead into a superhero, like he's like the Baron Zemo of it. That might happen, but man, it's also just a show that seems like it's a parody of LA, it's a parody of Marvel Studios, and they're kind of lightening up, and I think that's what people need. The problem, I think, is with their TV shows, they have to do one of two things. They have to use movie characters to pull in movie fans. Like VisionQuest, I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be bigger than Daredevil. I think Daredevil, like on the channel, we didn't see massive views from it, but we have loyal views. People loved WandaVision, right? I think people came around to Agatha all along. People are thirsty for VisionQuest. Wonder Man's one of those shows, though. I wonder if it can do what Disney Plus needs, which is VisionQuest is going to pull everybody in who watched the movies. What they need is an Andor. Andor is this show that was so good. It wasn't just the people who watched, Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka. It pulled in everybody. The showrunner went on like Seth Meyers and Jimmy Kimmel to talk about the show. That does not happen, right? Unless it's like Vince Gilligan. I wonder if Wonder Man can do that for them, because I think that's what they need out of a Disney Plus show with a new character.
Well, and what they need to do is put the episode on ABC, put the first episode on YouTube
so
for
Grandma
free.
can watch it.
Yeah, Grandma, and also
YouTube for free is a good idea.
Throw it up on YouTube for free. Get people hooked. I'm excited for Wonder Man, but I could understand why somebody else wouldn't be. Because it's like, oh, it's another Marvel show I haven't been keeping up. I think this show is actually going to be like kind of what they intended She-Hulk to be, something funny and different and disconnected, and just a show that you can. I don't think you need to have seen any Marvel movie or show to enjoy Wonder Man. I don't know that that's what Marvel needs to be focusing on. Maybe they need to stick with doing, we make comic book genre stuff. But if they want to expand and do comedies and horrors and stuff like that, I think Wonder Man's the right direction.
I think it's funny that your marketing strategy is the same as like a meth dealer. Like give them the first one free. Get them in there. Hook them good, baby. Yeah. Hook them good. Then come in and you're stuck with us.
Did you like that? For $17.99, you can watch it ad-free.
Doomsday's one where, I don't know, I have trouble with Doomsday because I'm always like, how in the hell? Like, you look at Avengers Endgame, it resolved all these different storylines from characters that have been seeded over multiple movies. A lot of the people who were in Avengers Doomsday have appeared once. And you know how, like, Endgame had those little moments that if you watched everything, you were rewarded? Like when the Wasp calls Steve Rogers Cap, and it's calling back to, like, her making fun of Scott Lang for calling him Cap, and they have this little glance. That's fine. But to me, it seems like Doomsday's got to be like all that, or just focus on characters from the multiverse, or from the Infinity Saga. So I still like, if anyone can pull off that trick, I guess it's the Russo brothers, but that's a tall order. I'm a little more excited for Brand New Day. So talk to me about that, guys. Do you think that can incorporate with the TV shows in a way that I really don't think many of these projects have incorporated with the TV shows well. I don't think Doctor Strange did. I don't think Brave New World mostly did, except you didn't know who Isaiah Bradley was if you hadn't watched the show. What do you guys think? Or like, if Punisher, do you think his continuation, is Kingpin in it? If Daredevil's in it, is people are gonna be like, who the hell is this guy? How's Brand New Day gonna work out?
Ryan, you were at the Marvel panel. Didn't they say that like the showrunners for season 2 of Born Again were in communication with the people who are doing Brand New Day? Did I read that somewhere? Or?
Yeah, but just they said it in context of just to make sure they were, because it takes place in New York, and they wanted to make sure it ended. And Charlie Cox, though, we talked about. I know. You're right.
Yeah, that in itself is great to hear. I was just going to say, like, because they did not do that with WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness. Like, it was just two completely separate wings. But yeah, what you noticed about what Charlie Cox said, share that.
Yeah, Charlie Cox had this moment where, like, Brandon Davis said, yeah, you're in Spider-Man. And he was like, he froze for a second. And it was very much like, oh, shit, did they show that trailer while I was backstage? I thought we weren't showing that or telling anyone that. And then he was like, and Brandon saved his ass. He went, animated. He's like, oh yeah, animated. Bro, he's in that movie. He is in that movie. But do you think that'll work? Do you think it's going to be like, who the hell is this guy? Or do you think his teaser in No Way Home and, just in general in the movies, do you think they're going down the right track this year?
Do I think people are going to be like, who the hell's this guy when who shows up in Brand New Day? Daredevil?
Daredevil. Yeah.
No, I think everybody knows Daredevil. I think Daredevil's one of those characters that everybody knows. Daredevil. He's up there with Hulk and Wolverine and Spider-Man, I think. Yeah, he's on the lower tier, but I think people get Daredevil. People know Punisher. They see his sticker on the back of pickup trucks and stuff. They know Punisher. I think they'll fit in well. Kingpin is a Spider-Man villain. I think it could meld well together.
Kingpin's in it. We don't know.
I know. I hope he can be in it, because maybe he can't, according to like contracts. Like the movie rights to Kingpin are still kind of unclear. I don't know.
D'Onofrio said, yeah. I don't know. Sadie Sink too. We don't know who the hell she is. There's now rumors she's a villain. Some people think she's Punisher's sidekick, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Tommy, there's all this really cool mystery and stuff surrounding that, huh?
It's Punishette, I think.
Punishette, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Punishette.
I'm just sort of Punishette. Oh, that's cute. I like that we don't know much about this movie yet, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's one of the most fun things about it. And I hope that it doesn't turn into like No Way Home, where a really rabid part of the fan base decides to ruin it for everybody else with spoilers, even though I know that'll happen because we're all hungry for a story.
Sure.
On the movie side, though, of course, the major thing is Doomsday, which I said I'm a little bit dubious about. Tommy, how the hell do you think they can pull off this storytelling trick they're trying to pull? X-Men nostalgia is going to do it?
I agree with you 100%. My thought is that the easiest way is just to make this movie about Doctor Doom, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four, and then have all these side characters that we know that have been announced in the cast kind of come in very small roles, and then be like, but they're coming back in a big way in Secret Wars. But this is a story about Doctor Doom, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four all kind of converging on our planet, or the 616 universe, and figuring it out. And it's a lot of players. Like it's a cast list that already feels too big and is only certain to grow. And I don't know how they can do it unless it's just really a Doctor Doom story and everyone else is kind of incidental.
Which is how they did Infinity War. They made it a Thanos story.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Doom has to be the star of the movie, like Infinity War with Thanos. Yeah.
Let's call it Doomsday. I'll tell you guys this. I'm going to leave you with this thought. I think there's going to be a bloodbath. I think a lot of these people who they introduced, how like Infinity War was nice and clean. Thanos snapped his fingers. Yeah. Man, I think it's going to be R-rated. I think we're going to see She-Hulk's guts spread out across the table. I think John Walker's a dead man. I think there's so many of these people who are introduced
John
in the
Walker's
shows.
toast.
They're going to clean the slate. But you never know. We thought for years that Hawkeye was toast. Nevertheless, he persisted.
You know what I want?
Yeah.
In X-Men Origins Wolverine, when Sabretooth grabs that teleporter's spine, I want that with Ghost. I want her zip-zapping around, and Doom's like, and rips out. Maybe that's the spine Doom rips out. That'd be great.
Maybe that's the spine that we saw in the light show. We don't know. Either way, 2026, I think, yeah, go ahead, Tommy.
So I was just going to say, should I predict that Ant-Man's going to die for the 5th consecutive movie? Because I think that would be good for my internet paper trail if I just go, Ant-Man's a goner!
Okay, guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I want to know what you guys think about 2026. I do think it's the make or break Marvel year. I think it's the most important year for Marvel since 2012, because if the Avengers would have failed, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and I would be working at a Target somewhere. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, we have Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped in our television and doesn't know it, so please don't tell him. And Tommy Bechtold, the guy who's always on break.
Oh, no.
Oh, you got to go? Okay, Tommy's got to head out, and that means that it's time for you guys to let us know what you think down in the comments or on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or our free-to-join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts for ScreenCrush. Ryan Airy. Bye.